Espinosa from Nathan, and they'll talk about online activities, something like online tutorials, right? Yeah. Well, pretty sure that's a good introduction. So, well, and today we'll watch some videos and we'll talk about, I guess, have some discussion. And looks like everybody's interested in these topics. Looks like everybody's doing online activities in different ways, quizzes or tutorials. So I think it will be very interesting to discuss. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Balls to you.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, as said, I was watching TV, as you do, and big ideas came along, and this is an extract. I'll play the first part, the first 20 minutes of Big Ideas that was on ABC TV. It was recorded in 2014, at the end of 2014, at the AMU. So you'll see...
two down. I think there, behind the wall, they're having one side.
So we're ready to go?
This is Big Ideas from the ABC.
Before we start talking about education in an online world, I thought it might be interesting to start exploring what happens when this explosion of online education, what happens to the traditional lecture theatre where someone like me...
Okay, you get the drift, and you're welcome, because Griffith University has a licence for ABC TV programs, there's no problem in me distributing it to anybody who's interested. The conversation continues, but essentially it was 2.5 years ago that I thought that there may be some opportunities to develop some online tools, and I got together with Andrew Seeger and Steve O'Keefe and applied for a small learning and teaching grant to see whether we could build into our system a method of doing online tutorial support. And the reasons for that include, and I wrote them down because they're quite a lot. The class sizes continue to increase, which means the marking load continues to increase. Sessional support is variable quality. You can't tell usually when you employ one of your PhD students whether they're going to be a good facilitator or not. And of course, the number of hours per support staff that you get is going down too. So the screws are tightening. An assessment tasks are not decreasing. We have both formative and summative assessment, and you know, there are a lot of courses have a lot of individual little bits and pieces that need to be marked by somebody. Of course, copying and group work answers tend to decrease student engagement, and we need some method of making sure that the people that are doing the assignments and that are actually capable of doing the work that they present. So it's sort of plagiarism type things. And in my experience, certainly in Maths 2A and in a number of the other courses I teach, students are asking for more and more tutorials. More and more tutorials. I mean, we use a textbook for the course that we're going to talk about, and that textbook has lots of examples in the back, but the students seem to, however, not want to do those, even though I say, look, you know, here is a set of tutorial questions. Now, you know, try these, but this is one way that we can generate an infinite number of tutorial questions and not have to mark them, because it's marked online automatically by the system. So the possible contribution, hang on, just let me get, okay, so the whole idea was to see whether we could design some online tutorials, and in that time, Hugo was a postdoctoral fellow, working with me on other projects, and he set his mind, and we cracked the whip, and he produced a shell, a framework that allows us to engage with the course. It's called Electromagnetic Fields and Waves, something like that. But the textbook is the same textbook that I use, and it's just an example because the framework will fit anything, pretty much most courses. So, the concept was that we would generate tutorial problems with randomised questions, with randomised values. So that every time, and you'll see this during the demonstration, every time a student logs in, puts in their student number, then in fact what happens is that a new question appears. Never, hand on heart, never will they be the same. And you'll see how that works in a minute. And there's an auto check of the answers. So that essentially what we're going to do is present the student with a problem, they need to do some calculations, and then submit the answer, and then that's automatically checked. We wanted then to provide feedback, and the feedback really relates to the fact that if it's wrong, the answer is wrong, then we anticipate that certain answers are likely to be the incorrect answers. So, you know, they might miss a scaling factor, or they might not square the inverse square law, they may use power instead of voltage, or, you know, some of those are obvious answers. And so we can kind of predict that and provide feedback to say, oh, look, you got this answer, that means you did this. Or, and in addition, I would say that it also points you to the section of the textbook that they need to look at. And we stick to the textbook very, very carefully. And it's kind of a nice textbook, and most students seem to be okay with it. If in fact they get the answer correct, and this is something that we could change, automatically the student gets a certificate saying that they have passed this section of the course. Not only that, the information, the successful completion is emailed and we hope to put directly on Learning at Griffith, so that the instructor, teacher, lecturer automatically knows when that student successfully completed that exercise. So that, and then, you know, if they want to practice, they can keep doing, going, but you only get one tick in the box. And it's my philosophy that we don't actually count how many times a student attempts it, right? We want them not to feel threatened, so we don't count, but in principle you could if you really wanted to. So, and there are lots of other applications. So, you know, this can be applied to all fields of science, technology, ICT, and you can do tutorial questions and quizzes, and lab preparation was something that I thought of as well. And that is because in a lot of our experiments we asked for some pre-laboratory questions to be answered. And we could ask the students, or force the students to do that before they're allowed into the laboratory, to make sure that they are on track. I also thought that we could look at this asking students before they come to this university or enrol. We could ask them to do several of these courses in relatively simple mathematics, for example, to prove that they can cope with the mathematics that we ask them to do. And that's not very difficult to do. All we need to do is validate that they are who they are. If you listen on to that video that I just played, they use actually optical recognition, which is a bit sophisticated for us. Not impossible to do, but essentially they ask the person to register, send in a photograph, and then that photograph is, you know, when they complete their online assessment, they need to be, you know, the face needs to be recognised. At the moment, you know, we haven't got to that far, but you know, you might think about that in the future. So we have some guarantees that the person that does the problem is the person that actually whose name appears against it, and you'll see how that works in a minute. And I also was kind of interested in using this for HDR. I get a lot of inquiries, and I know a lot of you do too. A lot of international students apply to do a PhD, or apply to get a scholarship or something like that. And you really don't know. I mean, they're from all over the world, they have all sorts of different backgrounds, and perhaps we could ask them to do some relatively simple undergraduate problems that would just see whether in fact they're on board or not. And so that kind of idea appealed to me a little bit too. And so now what I'm going to do is ask Hugo to do the demonstration of how the program works. So yeah, we have to run it off his computer because that version is different.
Yeah, so basically we developed a tool in MATLAB, which is the software that we use on our daily basis. Of course, there are many other tools that can be used, like LabVIEW or any other. For us, MATLAB was the easiest. We still need to find out the compatibility if you're going to use Learning at Griffith as a platform for students to do the tutorials. See how can we embed MATLAB with, I don't know, executables or any other Thiel. So, well, basically, this is the tool that we have been developing. We have a main GUI that gives a set of instructions. Is the students through Learning at Griffith just opens this tool. This should be the main frame. Of course, all these can be adjusted or changed according to the what best suits to the course or to the lecture. So we have some students' details. So I'm going to enter David. See if he has it right. Maybe his student number is 3.
1 more.
That's like one of the first two.
3.
And then we just run the application. It gives you an automatic random code just for validation, which is going to print into the certificate. And then we have this problem selection. Of course, we did this tool for our courses of electromagnetic fields. At the moment, I'm convener of this full course, and I'm trying to use it in second semester. But mainly in electromagnetic fields, where has done this course, we have 3 main topics, which is electrostatics, magnetostatics, and time-varying fields. So the student will choose any of these topics. And then we go to the chapters, and then we go to the topics within this chapter. We use a very good reference data set called Eulery, which is Fundamentals of Electromagnetics. And these are the main three chapters. So we have different topics here that the student can choose. Then we have magnetostatics, for example. We have a set of subtopics, and of course time-varying fields. So for every topic, we have a problem which can be generated in an infinite random number of times. So for example, I'm going to choose one of the easiest, which is time-varying fields, the ideal transform. I generate the problem, and this is what it's going to display to the student. We have a problem for each subtopic. We have a big database at the moment, and of course for every problem, as I said, we can generate it randomly. So we have a problem. Whoever knows a bit about transformers, we have this. I'm going to put it with the mouse. We have this number of turns in the left side, and this number of turns on the second side with a load connected to the second side. And then we have the question. In this case, it says calculate the voltage to the terminals of the secondary coil if the input voltage is 107 volts DC. The student is not very familiar with this, don't want to give it a go, then we can generate another random problem. It's going to change the number of turns and the load in the second side, and it's going to change the question. In this case, it's asking for the power consumed by primary coil. So the student says, okay, I want to give a go to this. He does his calculations and enters the solution here. We're going to put 5, assuming this is right. And then we verify the solution. The student at the moment cannot save results until the solution is not right. So once the solution is verified, says wrong answer, see feedback for more information. And in feedback it says, well, power is voltage squared by the load. Maybe this is a small hint for the student to try to get the right answer. And also it gives you some reference to the book, review chapter 6, section 6.3 of Eulery, and the edition is exactly the same, that book that would apply. I did this for myself, just to grab the right answer. Let's have a go to the calculation now. But, of course, as I said, this can be adjusted. We have now an accuracy of 5%. The student needs, if you read the instructions from the main GUI, it says to put four significant digits. and then it compares with a 5% accuracy of this value that the student entered. You can change this as you want. We verify the solution, just a little message, well done, the answer is correct, the saved result is unlocked. We save it, and well, just a little comment saying that doesn't matter how many random problems you solve, it will only count as one. You can still doing some other problems, calculate the voltage terminal secondary call in DC, then you enter another value. This, I know it, because it's supposed to be 0. Well done, the answer is correct, and so on. You can continue generating a random number of times. We close the problem, just have you saved the results? Yes. Then we go to the main GUI, and then we have unlocked this generate report. Click on it, and it's going to generate a PDF. But for some reason, it didn't display the logo as I wanted. But I have another one that has it, Griffith's logo, the screen resolution. So it just gives you the information that you enter. In this case, the new report has David, named David, ID 14, the validation code, date, everything, and here, problems correct, solved correctly. It displays what problem, from what chapter, from what topic. This is something that student would print and keep for his records, his or her records, but our idea is to automatically send through Learning at Griffith in a way that as lecturers we can see in the screen, like Mark Center, for example, some place that we can only see an update of this. So every time the student run it, it just updates a sort of spreadsheet with the name, student number, and the problem that was solved. That's mainly what we have developed at the moment. One of the important features, if we want to compare with other tools, and David has pointed out, well, is the infinite number of random generation of questions and values for the problem. We can also provide the little feedback if the answer is wrong, give some ideas of how to solve the problem, and well, the report generation and the automatically submission of the answer to the lecturer, so there's no need to ask for the report to the student and then have to verify if this is not plagiarized, the certificate, whatever. It goes automatically, so we need to worry about that. Okay?
Okay, thanks very much, Hugo. And just to cap off, I mean, we see this sort of tool can be spread, can be used in all sorts of classes, particularly large classes where marking is such a problem. I mean, it gives me the shudders when I walk into most of the offices here and see piles of exam papers and assignment papers that are 300 deep. I mean, it's just unbelievable workload on the school. So I see this as you know, certainly applicable in blended learning, because one would expect you know, you could set these problems and ask the students to read the textbook and solve the problems, and then come to class and then we troubleshoot and you know, provide some sort of applications type thing like that. I mean, obviously in flipped classrooms, again, the same thing happens, and in MOOCs, of course, you know, it's kind of you know, the sort of assessment tool that you need if you're going to have 100,000 people in your class. I'm not saying that any Griffith University MOOC might have that, but nonetheless, you know, if you're dealing with these extremely large numbers of students, then that's a possibility. The initial cost is reasonably significant. I don't know how many hours it took Hugo to, we didn't pay him for all that many, but he certainly got to the point of generating this framework that would allow us then, and probably, hopefully, allow you to input the sorts of things that you need. I mean, obviously these are numerical calculations, but there's no reason why you couldn't use it, for example, in a MATLAB course, which I know you have 300 students or something on the Gold Coast doing the MATLAB course.
I can quickly show this, because it's exactly what you're mentioning. So we tried to write the code in a way that whoever's going to use it, there are many black boxes that doesn't require to be touched. So it's just the engine, which is basically the calculation you're using for a civil engineering problem or for any sort of problem. You just need to enter in this little function all the calculations, and it just takes these variables in our main source. So it can be easily adapted to any lecture in the course.
So yeah, I mean, the next step, of course, is for Hugo to use it in second semester on this particular course, and you know, to gather some statistics. But obviously, you know, it would be really useful for us to, because I use the same textbook for my linear electromagnetics. His is a second year course, mine's a third year course. I mean, it lends itself very easily to do these sorts of things. I mean, certainly also, Hugo I used to teach Maths 2A, and now Hugo teaches Maths 2A, and it would be very simple to generate problems that do, you know, for Maths 2A. And these are not necessarily numerical answers, but it does give you the option of doing that. I mean, obviously, it's not very good for essay-type responses, but and I really want to shy away from pick one of the following. Although it could be used in that way, you know, multiple choice questions. So anyway, it's almost time, so I'm happy to, Hugo's happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Any questions?
Any comments, particularly about
Just comment that Hugo, with the assessment, will you get them to provide you that report and then there will be a mark attached to that?
Yeah, I think that will be up to the way we structure the course, but in principle we were thinking to, receive the report from students, but at the same time have it already automatically updated in Learning at Griffith,
okay.
And we can use this just to assess.
I think it might get, because I'll get it all right, I'm guessing, but they might get 5% if they do all that. Get a report to show that.
At the moment we're asking only for one question. It doesn't matter how many times they do it. But once it's right, they have this option of generate a report and that's it. But nobody says that you can accept as many questions. Okay, you have 5 right, you have 10 right, and then we assessed in a quiz out of 10% or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, you know, my view was this laboratory, pre-laboratory, and that is, you know, they might do it 5 minutes before you walk into the laboratory, and you don't have time to go to Learning at Griffith, and hence they've got a certificate which says, yeah, I got this right.
Yeah.
So that was kind of in my head a little bit about that. But you know, until you try and roll it out, we're not sure.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just thinking that can we have one page before going into the problem solving, one page of introduction to this equations, what they can actually...
You mean provide some information about so a revision page or something like that? Is that what you mean? I mean, there are...
outside this, so that, you know, that they, if you don't know the formula, for instance.
But personally, one of the main things I've seen since I started lecturing is the students' engagement. So for me, forcing the student to come to the lecture, get all the contents, and then send them to try to solve these problems, that would be fine. If I start giving some sort of review, then the student may say, well, I don't need to go to the lecture, I already have all the theory there as a main page, and then I have the questions, but that's my personal opinion.
Well, also, we chose these particular courses because we stick very rigidly to the textbook. So that all the symbols, all the images they see are in the textbook, right? And you know, and the textbook's gone round and round and round, although unfortunately there's new editions come out, and now we have that problem. And you know, whether we line up with Pearson's, who have an agreement with the university and get this embedded in there, but I don't want to charge the students for this. I mean, this is, or the university would have to pay to use these sorts of tournaments. So, yeah, Shinwan.
When you're having a random generated question, it seems, you know, the only number you have to generate. Can we put some different diagram for different question?
Yeah, the way we did it is it was very specific to the topic, and for the problem ideal transformer, well, there's not much to change. But yeah, I have some other problems trying to find, for example, the capacitance. So I have a big database of images, and yeah, this can be just randomly generated or just from 100 images, just pick them, because I'm taking all of them, as I said, from the book. So yeah, it can be done. It can be done. We tried to change not only the numbers, as you say, but also the questions, and of course the features. So if I'm going to ask something about magnetic fields, well, there are infinite problems that you find in many references. So all that we want to do. So if you grab the last page of the section, you have many problems with different geometries, so this is what we want to do. Yeah.
But I hope you noticed that the problems are not the same problem. I mean, essentially, one, you have to calculate the voltage. The second, you have to calculate the power. And the numbers are changing randomly, and also what we're asking you to do changes randomly too. So it's not as though you just keep doing the same. This is a turns ratio, and therefore that's the output voltage, right? So, so it's a bit more complicated than that.
We had it very simple because, as you can see, there are only 4 lines. It's voltage 1, voltage 2, impedance, and power. But we have problems with many questions, and we just change the instruction to grab these questions randomly. But we can also do geometries as well.
I mean, like mathematics or like mechanics, they're having we have a simple answer, but some problem we have many answers or many alternative solutions. Whether can do some the optimum solutions or many alternative. Is it possible?
Well, no. You have to define the inputs so that you only have one output. Yeah. Or alternatively, you can define the input and then have a function which would, I'm thinking off the top of my head here, a function which says, if this is your input, then this is your point on the graph, and that's your answer. And so you might be able to track it in 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional space to give you the right answer. It's just a little bit more complicated to do that, but not impossible.
I think those things must be done as a user and you as a lecturer. If you say there are 5 different answers this problem can have, then you need to put these possible 5 solutions. And yeah, it can be done.
I mean, MATLAB logic is easy. You just say this answer, or that answer, or that answer, or that answer, and tick. That's what would happen.
Because we have threshold of accuracy.
Yeah,
that's true.
So how are these student feedbacks so far?
We haven't done it. We haven't rolled it out to students yet. It'll be the first time that we'll do that. We still have some things to do. One is to get it onto the Learning in Griffith portal somehow, and that's what we need to talk to the IT gurus about. And Steve Drew's going to help us.
MATLAB can be compiled as a standalone program, right? So you don't need to have MATLAB on there.
It's tricky. You can make executable files, but still the computer needs a driver to run it. So I need to make sure that I can.
They don't make it easy for you to...
No, they don't want to. They want you to pay the license fee.
Licenses are expensive, so we want to make sure that students can use it in their place.
Yeah, just like any download from a website or on a computer.
So do you distribute it as some sort of encrypted script file so they can't read what's in the...
No, we won't give them the MATLAB, right? We expect them to go to the MATLAB on the university computing system. We're not, they're not going to get access to that.
So from Learning in Griffith, they just click run tutorial and it pops up the MATLAB interface that comes from Griffith. So yeah, they don't have access to anything.
Yeah, so watch this. Any other comments?
Any more questions?
Suggestions as well?
Yeah, sure.
Still in
I think it's very good, this is like a very good idea. If you can link it to Learning in Griffith, that would be fantastic. If everybody can do it, like not only for your course, also for other courses, also like my course, like cell mechanics, we have also kind of simple points like that. If we can change it and then put it online, that would be really great.
Yeah, it just takes.
I think, but just probably putting it online, linking it to learning and teaching, I think it will be very difficult, but possible, right?
Probably with the reporting to tell you how many times they've attempted it and got it right, some statistics about 10 attempts, 1 correct, or so you can see that these students are being sort of just playing guessing, and others really, I don't know. And then you got to link it to.
It's very difficult to guess the answer. Let me tell you.
But
yeah,
just more like attempts. Attempts, or
you can do that very simply.
Yeah,
one line in the program. However, I don't want to do that because I want students to have the freedom to do it as many times as they like and learn from their mistakes.
And just give you that report.
How it will be translated to points, power points.
Well, it may or may not be.
Yeah, so it's
I
not,
think
nothing
it's
to do with
correct
assessment.
or not correct, yeah.
The problem with students is they're so driven around marks. And as much as we say they shouldn't be, they just are, so if there's a mark attached to it, they'll do it. That's what I found anyway.
Yeah, sure. No, we all know that. We all know that. So we can make it compulsory in some way. So
But then you don't want free marks. You don't want just
No.
sort of every single person with 5%.
Oh, next.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I said starting at 5%.
yeah, well then Steve Cruz had a question.
It's just one question, really. Applicability to how many courses do you think through an engineering program, undergraduate program, for example?
Oh, I would say 50%.
At least, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of work though. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of work putting all the sort of data
That's kind of problem-based and functional learning. You can do that for examples for a range of different engineering courses.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm very confident about that.
Yep.
Steve might want to comment about that. DSP type thing. Yes, Hassan.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. I think it's very useful for laboratory sessions. At the end of the lab session, where I'm writing the report, you just do a quick quiz and you know if they have done actually anything or just.
Oh well, actually, that's a good idea. I never even thought about that.
Well, can they run it on a not a laptop, but even an iPad or any? Is it possible for them?
Yeah, it's supposed to be web-based. The whole idea is you log into this. You know, in principle, you log into learning at Griffith, and then you have access to this tool. So if you have a phone or a laptop or anything, you know, as long as you can get onto the web, log into learning at Griffith, then you're in.
Yeah, that's why we want to make it completely independent of, we don't make it just dependent on learning at Griffith, so it's displayed everywhere. We just need to make sure that it supports all the platforms.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, you're not going to escape completely, but I think you can reduce that.
Also, do you secure the PDF? Because there are tools for modifying.
Oh, no, we understand that. That's why it's automatically sent to the central repository. I mean, we know you can diddle the PDF, but we can check and you know, they might show you the certificate at the end of the lab, but we can go back and check.
We started thinking, okay, we have this validation code, well, but everybody can change it. We thought about a QR code to put it in the corner so when we can read it, but then we thought we don't need actually to have this interaction with the student. The result just comes straight automatically through learning at Griffith. So that's fine. So the report is just for the student, basically.
But still, can we, teachers can see how many times he has attempted that?
Yeah, it's what
just for us, not for the student.
For us, in terms of programming, it's
for us.
just a loop that it keeps counting how many times you're doing it. So it's very simple. It's just a matter of you as lecturer, you want to have this as record and the students know that they are, I don't know.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, David. Thanks, Hugo, for this great presentation. Yeah. Well, we'll give like a round of applause.
Yeah, and if you want to see the rest of that video, then you know it's on. Well, it was on ABC Online.
Actually, I registered one course for this.